Hey, welcome to the third show. It's been a long time. I'm sorry. I apologize. What can I fucking do? I'm always working. Actually, this time it wasn't around because I didn't make anything to get us through vacation because it's my fucking vacation. I'm not going to work my ass off before vacation. You people are all so sweet anyway. But I am working my ass off the week before the big tour. The Me and Brett named this tour, and I can't fucking say the name. The Hellfire something of something with the Trillbillies, with Brett and me and Brett, Street Fight Radio, and with the District Sentinel boy Sam Sachs, who called into the call-in show this week, and I have Sam Knight on with me right now for an hour. What's up, Sam?
Yo, what's up, Brian? How you doing?
I'm great. How excited are you, man? We're leaving. We're hitting me and Brett are hitting the road Friday, and you're hitting the road what, Monday?
Yeah, but you guys, you get in Saturday night, right?
Yes. I think we're gonna kind of. This is crazy. Like me and Brett are like trying to figure out what this thing. We've been, I think I asked you in January, right? Like, would you be interested? If we decided to put together a big package thing, would you be interested in coming? And you were like, yeah. And we have been thinking about this for now. We are in month 8 and we still don't know what it looks like yet.
I'm just disappointed because I thought the original vision had was involving some sort of camping, but
There's never was going to be camping, Sam. He did. The first thing he said was like, we should like camp one night. And I was like, I will never camp ever, especially on tour. Like these long ones, if I can get even a minute of comfort on one of these long ones, I'm taking it. I can't imagine camping at any point during one of these runs. Cause like for us, it kind of started out as a thing where like we only did one a month. We're like, I need to just do one show a month. I'm not away from my family. I can go do it and I can come home. But it's impossible to make money doing it that way.
yeah, we haven't done a live show for a while. The last time we did a live show, it sometimes they go well, sometimes they don't go well, and so it's been a while for us, but we used to do them all the time at a bar sort of up the street from where we record, and those were really fun for a while, but we stopped, and then the bar was temporarily closed down because a dude was murdered right outside of it, and they have this law in DC where if there's like a serious violent crime at your bar, they shut you down automatically for like 48 hours and then for a while, which I don't sympathize with business owners whatsoever, but I feel like that's kind of bullshit. I mean, like that person could have been murdered anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was outside anyway. It's like, what do you do about outside, right?
It spilled out from the bar itself. So
shit happens though. Two people get
shit happens.
When people get together, sometimes shit happens. And you gotta think, if you're a bar, if you're running a bar, how do you control who comes into that bar other than like you can do certain aesthetic things and raise prices on drinks. In Columbus, a very famous thing that you do is basically look at whatever style black people wear and then make a dress code that makes sure that they aren't allowed in there ever. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Where it'll be like no hats, no sports teams or some shit. And it's like, wait a second.
Yeah. So it's like, it's one of the
FUBU shirts. I see where this is going.
We have a whole street where like the dress codes are just these enormous boards with 20 different, it looks like they're adding them all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, we had this tour has been crazy to book because it was like I don't remember what the original. So basically here's how the idea came about. Me and Brett were driving out west And West Coast tours involve more driving than I think a lot of people really think that they involve, because it seems like everything's right next to each other. So we booked it and we're like, this is going to be the easiest shit in the world. But like everything's 6 hours away from the next thing. It's like, what the fuck? What do you mean LA 6 hours away from San Francisco? They're in the same state. And we were talking and I was just like, we gotta because we've gotten to a point now where we've done so much that we are going to do the West Coast one more time in November. We're going to do not one more time forever, but we're going to do the West Coast in November. Yeah. And then we're getting off the road until April because we're doing Texas in October, and we're doing fucking like a little Midwest little guy there in at the end of August. So like we leave 2 weeks after we get back from this one. But we're doing those and we're like, well, what do you even do? Like I want to always be kind of leveling up. So it was like, we were doing one show at a time, and it was like, okay, well you just can't make money that way because you pay so much to get there and you have one gate, one door, whatever they decide to pay you is how much money you make. And usually it costs more to get there, and it just doesn't work out. It's a little better for me and Brett now because we're able to be more aggressive with the owners of the bars. But we wanted to add people, and you guys were the first. I knew I wanted you two. You two were like the two that like I was definitely gonna add before anybody else. Like
we came out to Columbus, we went to Tree Bar before they were dicks. So
hey, they weren't they weren't total dicks. I would hook you up with a different place if you came here the next time.
Yeah.
All they really did to us was book us between two bands. Have you ever performed where there was a band performing?
No. I don't. Well, actually, no. Yes, I have. We performed with the Alex Jonestown Massacre in Richmond. They were cool, but that was like that. It wasn't like they wedged us between acts and like totally disrespected us or anything.
Yeah, was it your show? Were you like, we want this band to play here?
It was the DSA chapter in Richmond. They were putting together a benefit for their brake light clinic. And, Richmond is basically like Southern Baltimore. It's not very far from DC in that regard. So we were just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go down. And we had a great time in Richmond. And, but the band situation was, yeah, there was no problem there. Like we knew the bands were performing, and the order of who was going when there was never any like question about that. And I don't know, but I could see how it could be like shitty if people who are managing it are not like, attentive to.
I just think that like maybe I think that maybe people who run bars see the performers as widgets, and it's like, well, because we asked what happened with the Tree Bar was we asked them if they had that day available because there was a there is that time between Christmas and New Year's, and if you live in a city like mine, there's a bunch of people here that aren't normally here for that week, if that makes sense. Probably in DC it's different, everybody leaves. But in Columbus it's people coming home that moved away to like different cities. So we're like, well, do you guys have this date open? If you have this date open, me and Brett would like to do like a little party, like a little thing. We got our friend Lindsay in town. and Drew. We had just met Drew Toothpaste and kind of started getting along with him, and we were like, we have them, and we'd like to throw a little party. And the guy had us from your show, the show we did our own 420 show, and then we did the show with you guys that sold really well. And I think on the strength of those two shows, there was no way he was turning us down. It was just never, like, because he was turning people away at both of those shows. That people didn't even fit in the room. And he was like, yeah, it's open. And we get there, there's a band setting up, and they play or they're about to play, and they say, so what, like, you guys like do some little podcast thing here? And that annoyed the shit out of me, because like the whole bar was full of our people. But I don't like to be like egotistical, but it's like when you fill a place, when the place is full and they're there to see you, and then somebody's treating you like your thing is the little thing, it's like, buddy, your band is the little thing. Like you're doing a little band thing. You're having a little band practice. It sounds very fun. But then they just, it was kind of like,
what are you, a cover band?
Well, and then they were like, I don't want you to move any of the mics. But it was me and Brett and Lindsay and Drew. There were 4 mics that needed to be used, and there were only like kind of 2 in the front. And I was like, so you want one of us to stand behind the drum set? Like, is that, it's not happening. So we moved the mics, and then they kind of gave a shit about, don't go over an hour. But it was like, once I'm up here, what are you going to fucking do? Like, I didn't worry about that, but it just irritated me. But really, we did the thing you did with the Brake Light Clinic. We actually did one of those here too.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, can you and Brett come and MC this Brake Light Clinic? And it was like 4 punk bands, and we did it. And at the end of that night, we said, we're never working with musicians again. It's just never gonna fucking happen, because nobody fucking comes to a bar to watch punk rock and wants to stand and listen to 2 guys talk. I don't care what 2 guys they are.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in the position of the audience a lot of time. And if you were at a concert and you were trying to have fun, would you want to fucking have 2 guys come up there and talk at you?
Probably not. No, I think for like the Richmond thing, I think it worked because like they were a local act. So a lot of people were like attentive to us, and we went first, and then it was like the music. So
that's
it was like
the way to do it.
It was us talking, and then that was cool because we obviously like went out to the car and hotboxed and came back in and just rocked out to these bands, and that was a lot of fun. Like when the podcasters go first and then like join whatever crowd there is, like that, I think that's the way to do it. I had a great time doing that show in Richmond. I would do that again, like in a second. For sure. But I could see how if I were going to see a punk band, and then it's like, who's the opening act? Like these 2 dudes on stage talking, I could see how that that could go bad.
The most punishing part of it was that we came up between every band.
Oh, so they want you to be like MCing sort of thing. Like you come up, you do a little joke or something, and I don't know.
It works though. Here's the thing. You're not going to experience this on this tour, fortunately. But no, you will experience this later though. This is something I have learned now after 2 years on the road. It doesn't fucking matter how many large crowds you draw. You will like get fucked at some point. And like, so me and Brett, at the beginning of the year in April, actually, I'll even start it before that. So that show, that Brake Light Clinic, was right after a Midwest tour, right? That we had just done, we'd made good money. It was the first tour we ever made money off of. And it was like kind of our first tour. We made like really good money off the tour. All the shows sold well. The crowds were very big, and it was exciting. And it's like, oh man, I really feel like I'm part of something,
Yeah.
And then 2 days after we got home, we went and did this gig with the DSA, and none of our people showed up. None of our listeners showed up. And when we would go up there and talk, nobody would get closer than like 10 feet away from us. They would just kind of stand back and talk and not really listen. And we had to do that 4 separate times during the night, where it got to the point where like the second time or third time, I was like, the guy came up and was like, "Hey, you guys are about to go up." And we're like, "Do you really want us to go up? Like, does this seem necessary?" It was just, and he was like, "Well, I need you to give away these prizes." And then, but the same thing happened this year. Was we did this Northeast tour where we did really great. We sold like 350 tickets in New York. We had all these really big houses. It feels like everything's on the up and up. And then we go down to the Southwest, and we did a show in Las Vegas, and 8 people showed up.
Damn. And everyone was going to see the Elvis impersonator instead, huh?
I guess somebody said that people just don't go to things in Vegas. Like the people that live in Vegas, they just don't go to stuff, which makes perfect fucking sense to me for some reason. Have you ever been there?
No, but I assume it's very like going out to stuff is generally associated with like tourist shit, and B, a lot of them probably work in the service industry, so they'd probably just like rather just fucking order a pizza and drink beer at home, which is perfectly understandable.
Yeah, that's a rough place, Vegas. Like not just because the show was bad, but we spent 4 days there. I
should have done Reno. Should have hit Reno.
People have said that. I mean, I don't think the gambling places are for me. I think the 2 places I've gone to on tours now that I haven't liked the most the whole time are Vegas and New Orleans. So maybe I'm just a type of person, you know, like that doesn't go well in places like that.
Well, I know like parts of New Orleans are obviously very touristy, and other parts are more like, you know, like actual whatever, like they feel like people live there and they're not like tourists throwing up outside of their house, you know, every other night or whatever. But I mean, Vegas, it's hard for me to conceptualize.
It's a very fucking weird place, man, because like like here's something that like it was a big weird thing to me is that strip is made for tourists, and you know how in most major cities, in order to, they'll sometimes have a flight of steps that you have to walk up, and you sort of walk across a bridge and then down a flight of steps to get to the other side of the freeway or a road or something like that, so it doesn't stop traffic. You know what I'm talking about?
Sorta, yeah.
Like just walking bridges, basically.
Somewhere to walk for pedestrians.
Yes, in Vegas, they have escalators out like in the street, so people don't even have to walk up the steps.
That's fucked up. I don't know if that's fucked up, but it's just really hard for me to wrap my head around.
There's escalators there's public escalators on the streets for people to get to the other side of the streets. They also have legal weed there, but it's so expensive. $35 a joint.
Yeah.
So it's just
that's a lot.
Bad place.
That's Jesus Christ. You have to like hit the roulette table just to afford a joint.
Which I ended up getting addicted to. While I got addicted to roulette while I was actually in Las Vegas. That's the other problem. I know you're a gambler. Just don't go there, Sam, because it's bad for you.
I mean, I'm pretty cool with just like, you know, going to New Jersey and playing the sports book, the online sports book, because like I mean, I mostly like sports gambling anyway, and so I don't really need like flashing lights and whatever, just as long as I'm able to look at my phone and and bet on whatever, soccer usually, then I'm good.
How did you get in? How did you get into sports gambling? I don't know. Is this recent?
Well, so like I spent one summer in the UK, in London, and like there are bookies on basically every corner, and I like my friend I was staying with and I won a bet. The odds were 150 to 1, and it was basically correct. The first score of the game and the correct score, called a scorecast bet, and we would spread bet on those. So like we'd put 50p on like 5 or 10 different ones, and we hit one and we won a lot of money, and I was just like, fuck yeah, this rules.
See, it's weird because what happened with me with roulette was that like I put $20 in the machine. I said I got $80. Okay, I'm gonna no. I put aside $100 for when we're in Vegas of my own money. Patreon hit as soon as we got there, so I had just gotten paid, and I had $100, and I kept winning over and over again. I was up $180 at one point, and I felt so good. When I left, I ended up being up 80, and I came home and I wanted to show my wife, like, dude, you should see how easy gambling is. So we went to the casino in Columbus. I lost every penny in like 15 minutes.
That's how they get you. Like when you're winning, you feel like it's basically printing money, and when you lose, you're just like, well, you got to pay to play, and I don't know. I think it's a fun hobby as long as as long as you got it under control.
Do you ever have you ever tried? Because here I'll say this. So I'm buying these concert tickets that are like $900. It's for 3 people. It's a festival. It's for my whole family to go. And I have them on layaway, and they take like $250 out every month for the next 3 months for me to get these festival tickets, right? And it's coming out soon. I have money in the bank, but I don't have a lot. Basically, I'm at that point where it's like, oh boy, I'd like to have more so I can be irresponsible. I'm like, I have the amount of money I need to live until we get paid again, but I would love to be more irresponsible with it. So
I feel that. I mean, like, that's for sure.
So last night I was like, so first of all, yesterday I called the ticket people. I was like, hey, could you withdraw this money on August 1st instead of tomorrow, Tuesday? And the guy's like, no, we're going to take it out tomorrow. If the money's not there, we'll try it again every day until 10 days out, and then we'll cancel your tickets. I was like, so there's not like a drop down menu where you could just, or a box where you could just be like, take it out on August 1st instead of tomorrow. And he said no. And I hung up, and I was out walking, and I get about halfway home, and I'm like, I could stop at the casino.
Yeah.
I could take $20 out and stop at the casino on the way home from doing Street Fight. And maybe I could get us up another $100, $200 so we could be irresponsible again.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I actually didn't do it. I was able to stop it, but it gambling became a solution in my mind. Have you had that kind of thing ever happen?
Maybe.
I won't push you any harder on that.
I because like me and other Sam were talking about it, and like he was making fun of my strategy where I'm like, look, if you have a spread of parlays, like you're bound to hit one, and like, who cares if you sink like, like $60 on parlays? Like, if you only win $90, like, think of it this way, like, that would be a rate of return on an investment that, like, you would be outperforming the market by a fair amount. And he's just like, listen to yourself.
I agree with you. I have to be Sam Knight's side on this, in that, like, I don't think the only problem with the gambling, like, the only problem with sports gambling that I can see in comparison to the stock market and shit, is that, like, nobody that's sports gambling is putting it in a savings account.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It only sort of works as a strategy if it's like, if it is your savings and you're like trying to fucking grow it. But also, like, Jesus Christ, are you really gonna like take your savings and bet it on, like, the Buffalo Bills? Like, best of luck to you.
But what is the difference? I really do. I'm serious when I say, like, what is the difference between betting it on that and, like, Apple? Other than Apple's, I guess Apple's maybe a sure bet, but I mean, even that isn't a sure bet. People invest in businesses that close all the time, and it does. I just finished reading this book about con men, and the stock market. It basically, the way they explained it was, the stock market would have been considered like, I'm trying to think of the words they used about the stock market were
Ponzi
speculation.
scheme?
Well,
Speculation.
yes. Well, speculation was considered wrong, like immoral thing to do. You know what I mean? And when the United States first started, or when it was the colonies, and in the early days of the United States history, they were like, speculation is immoral. You don't do it. It's wrong. Like, Ben Franklin and all those founding fathers guys wrote a whole bunch of shit about how speculation's wrong. And then just over the years, they were able to kind of change people's opinions on speculate, because the way she explained it is, people were gambling the whole time. And people didn't really have a moral issue with gambling in the early days. They kind of felt like gambling was fine. They used gambling to pave roads. Like, a lot of the infrastructure was put together by lotteries and gambling in the early days. And they said that people were like okay with it. But then somehow we were able to be convinced that speculation is okay, but gambling is bad and wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's pretty wild if you think about it, especially because, like, and I've made this joke that, like, that sports gambling is the only ethical form of investing your money, because if you're speculating, whether just pure speculation, or you just like, whatever, I'm going to buy this stock and hope the price rises, like, vaguely, like, part of the way you get your highest rate of return as possible is if, like, other people suffer, if wages are cut, if environmental regulations aren't followed, et cetera, et cetera. Like, no third part, there are very few negative externalities of you blowing your money on the fucking LA Clippers, other than you blowing your money. But, like, in the other, in actual financial markets, like, the desire for a high rate of return drives some really dark shit.
All the dark shit, all the worst
all
stuff.
The dark shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all the worst stuff is because they're responsible, they claim is they're responsible to their shareholders.
Exactly.
Like, a good example is, I always use wrestling because it's so easy, but WWE being a publicly traded company that does business in Saudi Arabia, even though a number of their fans have lost subscribers to their subscription service when they don't even say the word Saudi Arabia on the show anymore when they're doing the shows there. They name them something else, and they don't say where they're taking place.
Damn.
And because when they would say Saudi Arabia on the TV show, people would boo. They would like actually boo. They would be like, "Oh, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia," people would boo, and there was just like this whole bunch of outrage about it. Especially after the first one they did, people were pissed, but then the next one was after the Khashoggi killing, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up being on John Oliver and shit like that, and most of the arguments I saw for them doing it was like they have a responsibility to their shareholders, and this is a massive amount of money that they're getting, and if they turned it down, they would be doing wrong to their shareholders. And I'm like,
so I think that's also like a fucking just a giant excuse. It's not like anyone's necessarily gonna sue them, because you could also argue that, hey, like, I am protecting my shareholders' long-term interests by refusing to do business with someone who it offers such a clear reputational risk. So I think it's honestly just like it's like a capitalist security blanket. It's like, well, oh no, like, put your pitchforks down. We had to do it for the shareholders. It's like, no, you're fucking, you're avaricious pieces of shit is really what it comes down to. And I mean, theoretically, yeah, I guess there could be like more likely to be a hostile takeover if you're not trying to get all the money possible. But you know, like, fuck you. You just want to get your palms greased.
right. Well, and after the Khashoggi thing, because now like you see a bunch of people said they were going to stop doing business with them, and then reeled that back a little bit about 3 weeks after the announcement. I can't remember. There was a Hollywood agency that said that had been doing a bunch of business with the Saudis, and they were like, well, we're done. We're fucking done. And then and then like a couple weeks later, I read somewhere that they were like, well, we can't actually be done. We have contracts and shit with.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, the nature of these things too is like, in the next recession, like, I'm sure Saudi financing will be a lot harder for some of these people to turn down. And like, we just got to overthrow this capitalism shit. This is going to keep happening.
I agree. It is, but it is like people are starting to notice that kind. Like I found it heartening, I guess, that of all people, wrestling fans were outraged about them doing business with Saudi Arabia, and liberals are obviously going to freak out anytime somebody does business with Russia, right? Like, they're not going to allow that to happen. And it just I mean, FaceApp, isn't FaceApp a Russian app?
That's what people have been saying.
Yeah, they're freaking because we're using that. They're going to ban vodka. They're going to start calling vodka like freedom juice or something like that.
Idaho potato juice or something.
But it is like you're right. Like, the only way is to overthrow all of the capitalism, because you can like trace every single little all of these problems to that. Like, Saudi Arabia wouldn't be able to do the things that they do if they didn't just have a fucking ton of money that they can, because you can do anything you want if you just have all the money.
Yeah. I mean, it's another reason for a Green New Deal too, because like it's not just Saudi Arabia. Like, it's a well-known phenomenon called the natural resource curse, where a country, develops, or not even a country, an area. The Trillbillies will tell you about the natural resource curse in Appalachia, I'm sure. Basically, just there's a bunch of fucking shit in the ground that's worth a lot of money. and it empowers some very awful people, and that just happens time and time again under capitalism.
Yeah, and they roll through and they leave everything in shambles when they're done. I went down to Kentucky with them, and like there you can we went down to Kentucky to visit with them, and they talked a lot about some of the mountains and stuff, like, and was it West Virginia where they just cut the top off of the fucking things?
Yeah, the
Out there?
mountaintop mining. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
think they
kind of.
did it in Kentucky too, but they definitely, yeah, they just blow off the fucking top of a mountain because labor is too, it would be more, it's more cost efficient, and boom, just no more fucking mountain. That's it.
Well, that's me and Brad had a conversation on a show recently about it might not even be me and Brad, it might have been on a bonus show, but Brett uh knew a guy from an extended kind of family that was a fracker, right? Like he worked on he went to whatever school it was to learn how to work the fracking machine or whatever it is. And he was me and Tom actually talked about this. He was, making $90,000 a year. And it's like, I can't, how do you turn that down? I've said that about the police too. I was like, you hear the police are making like $90,000 a year. No wonder fucking people are willing to do the evil jobs. The evil jobs pay a whole bunch of fucking money and get your hands dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty enticing. Like if you think about it, like just going off to work on an oil rig for a while, or trying to, it's obviously very hard work. I don't think I could,
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think I could do it, but Jesus Christ, like, I'm trying not to have any, delusions about my own physical capabilities or whatever.
Yeah. No, I might be able to because I roofed.
Yeah.
I just being a roofer means you can do any of the other shitty jobs. Did you did you read that article about working at fast food places? The Emily she just called our show last night, and I'm not going to get her name right.
I didn't read her article, but I listened to her call in, and I also listened to her on the Trailbillies. So I also cannot for the life of me remember her last name, but
I know,
I know what you're talking about.
but that shit's
It's something Germanic, isn't her last name? Like something.
Grundelberger is what I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. Oh yeah, there are a lot of E's in you. Sorry, Emily. No offense. It's a fine last name.
I would just feel so good. It would feel so good to me if liberals would like actually read that book. I know that I am never going to talk liberals into listening to Street Fight or the Street Fight call-in show, but the dream for me is for people to understand what low wage work is and how fucking hard it is,
And that interview was it dug up some memories of mine from like working the service industry, and like some of the more awful moments. Like this guy came into the pizza place like in that little gray area between like closing and like fully closed, when the manager's just basically trying to sell all the shit they have, they're selling pizza by the slice. And this guy like ordered a beer, and I wasn't sure if we should serve him or not because I was trying to get the fuck out of there, and my manager wasn't really giving me a clear answer. And basically, this guy just like came up and like smashed a ceramic plate on the point of sale, like where I was.
Jesus.
And like was like giving me shit about the beer. And I remember looking at like all these glasses like behind the counter and thinking like, why shouldn't I just like pick up one after the other and fucking just glass you in the face right now?
Yeah.
And I like, obviously I didn't do that because there's like the whole the fight or fight thing. And, it was more, I just sort of like froze up and was just like, I can't believe my manager just like totally threw me under the bus like that. And I think he gave him a beer afterward too, and was like, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Which was, anyway, sorry, I was just rambling there.
No, I mean, the thing I was talking about yesterday on the show was the that's unacceptable thing. Like there are a lot of it is a type of dude that comes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's the white lady with the "Can I see your manager" hairdo too. You know what I mean? Like those are the two types of people that do it. But there are a lot of people that like. I guess maybe they learn don't take no for an answer, you
Yeah.
know? But like sometimes the answer is fucking no. And there's
Yeah.
nothing that the person behind the counter can do about it.
So
The answer is just no.
I have thought about like, and I guess since this sort of crossed my mind, I haven't really had a chance to do it, or I'm just like more of a coward than I'd like to think I am. But I would really like to encourage people, like if you're out at a restaurant and you hear like someone giving shit to the staff, like if you're feeling courageous enough, go up to that person, be like, listen, they can't tell you to fuck off because they're on the clock and their job depends on it. I can. I think you're a fucking piece of shit, and just start like getting in their face and saying how they feel it. Maybe not the best idea. You might get killed, but I don't know. I feel like if we had a culture of people who were just like, like the Good Samaritan customers who just like start yelling at people who yell at staff, then maybe it would become less socially acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've actually I wish that you could, because I've talked about going to restaurants where the employees treat you like a person, where they get to wear their own clothes and they get to treat you like a person, and it's not a uniform. That is kind of my favorite kind of place to go and eat, or my favorite place to be, a store where you go in and the person behind the counter looks comfortable and they're wearing their own clothes. I mean, I guess if they are dusting or something, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't understand why more people don't want them to be comfortable. Like, they don't want to come into a store and have people be comfortable. They don't want to have, because I know when I worked at the grocery store, when you were a bagger and a cashier, you were working right next to each other, your coworkers, and you weren't allowed to talk to each other. And that was so depressing to me. And that was a union job. And one of the things Emily said that really fucked me up, that really bummed me out the most, was when she talked about Amazon, and she was talking about those warehouses that I think we all agree the organizing. I think that the two places that organizing needs to happen more than anything is those Amazon warehouses and fast food restaurants and three big box stores. That's where organizing is most important. That's where all this stuff needs to happen. And the way that she said that it's specifically designed so you don't run into other people or see other people inside the place is really bothersome to me. I just, it's one of those things where it's like, how do you build solidarity in a place like that? We've had a number of callers call into the call-in show and say they want to go salt at Amazon, and I'm like, good luck. And I've never heard back from another one,
Yeah. I mean, I certainly want people to try to salt Amazon, but yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Well, salting is so cool, and I have seen it work. I know a buddy of mine that I do a show with once a month that is a real sweet dude that I might be performing live with very soon in the next few months. He claims he didn't salt, but he was very successful at getting a job, and now there's a union there. It's the best way I can describe it. I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Brace, right?
Yeah. He has a podcast out, by the way. Brace just launched a podcast, and he will not send me the name of it, so I can't hype it for you. But
bummer.
You hear it first here. Brace and Brian might open for Street Fight in Oakland this year in November.
Open for yourself.
Oh, trust me, I'm doing it 4 times on that tour. I'm opening for Street Fight because Sam, here's why. We can get back to the live talk discussion. Here's why. I hate being at the fucking bar. I hate it, hate it, hate it.
Yeah.
Unless I'm standing on stage and everybody's looking at me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm going to be working a lot of the I'll be at the merch table. My lovely girlfriend Martha's coming along. She's going to work the merch table, and I'll be there with her some of the time. And I'm a little terrified.
It's great. They're all
kidding.
great. Like they're all great. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell this to Martha too. And all the mean and bad fans probably are fans of Trillbillies or District Sentinel Radio, not like Street Fight fans. Is what my guess would be. Just throwing it out there. So
hey, I got nothing. Anyway, what were you saying?
I'm sort of worried now. I told a story on the show this week about a guy that robbed me in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
And now Sam Sachs has made fun of me for it, and Brett's still making fun of me for it, and I'm getting scared that everybody's going to start making fun of me for it now.
I mean, first of all, it was just $2, right? It was
only $2, but it was, I don't know. I still think about it to this day.
Sometimes you get robbed in a way that's just so funny. They're like, what can you do? Like, I remember trying to buy weed in Montreal, and it was obviously like just a bunch of leaves bagged up, and the guy started biking away before I could even look at the bag. And I was like, I just sort of like shrugged my shoulders, like, what can you do?
Dude, I knew this guy that's super square, right? Like, he's currently now a Blue Lives Matter guy, right? Posts about it all. He's actually in a newspaper fighting so that his son can carry a Blue Lives Matter flag out onto the football field when they run out with the school flag and the American flag in their hand. They want to add an extra flag.
Cool.
Isn't that like, and the coach said no. The coach was like, nah, you know what? We got 2 flags, you know?
Yeah.
How many flags do we need? but these Blue Lives Matter people don't care. They will just take offense to every little fucking thing. But this dude was like, hey man, a guy at work told me he could get me all the drugs I ever wanted. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, you don't need any fucking drugs, man. You just get a hold of me. I was like, all right. And it was when I was fucking popping pills a lot. It was before I went to rehab for painkillers, right? And I was like, called my dude, and I was like, hey man, you know that dude that said he could get you any drugs, man? Hey, can you you go over there and grab me some 20 of them? And then I gave the guy $200 to run over and grab me 20 Vicodin, no, what was it? Percocet 10s is what he said they were, which was a fucking incredible deal. Yeah, $2 for Percocet 10s. And he brought the thing back to me and he handed it to me, and it was fucking so obviously Tylenol. It was so, I looked at it and he handed it to me and I said, this is fucking Tylenol, dude. You just bought me fucking Tylenol. He went back and got my money back, but that's that getting robbed, like getting ripped off for drugs, is possibly the worst thing in the world. I do like that the guy took off for you though. He just got on his bike and rode off as fast as he could.
And then me and my buddy were like, fuck, we got to go back to the ATM.
Yeah. Have you been robbed other times? Like, have you had like any rough ones, or kind of, have you been pretty lucky?
In 2012, I was mugged once, walking home from a bar, and yeah, these 2 dudes just came out of nowhere, and one popped me in the face. Punched me in the face. I don't want anyone to think I was shot in the face.
No,
he punched me in the face, and I sort of stumbled backwards and was on the ground, and he took my wallet and then left, and that was it. But
yeah,
I mean, it's like, whatever, it kind of sucks, but I think it's funny because, like, a lot of right-wing people are like, oh, like, like a liberal will get mugged by reality and then become a conservative. And it's like, buddy, you're talking to a certified crime victim here. And I am like more left wing now than I was.
Dude, I think being a victim of crime in the 10 minutes after it happened to me, after the last time I was robbed back at the time where the guy pulled the gun and I broke my wrist and stuff. And in the 10 minutes after that, I was probably not my best person. Maybe for 6 months after that, I was maybe not my best version of myself, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I do credit that with about a year later, sort of moving me around, making me kind of come around the other way, because I guess like the difference between, I think, conservatives and people like us is they just never think about why things like that happen, you know?
Yeah. And I think they're like, it's something about their addiction to like victimhood, to the point where they're like, they don't think of the fact that they've walked by millions of people in their life who haven't, punched them in the face and taken their wallet, and they just fixate on the one thing. And to be fair, it's like, it's pretty traumatic. Like, I was not my best self those few days after, and I was definitely like emotionally shaken. I was like not super thrilled about like walking outside afterward, but like it sucks. And like, I don't know, if you have healthy things in your life, you can process it better and come out hopefully a better person. But I think it's like there's just such a right-wing fucking addiction to victimhood.
Right. I mean, my father-in-law, I don't think I've told this on the show, but like my father-in-law just recently went to DC, and it was for one of those Rolling Thunder veteran
Oh
get-togethers.
God.
Okay, yes, the corniest shit in the world. I know, but
It's so annoying. You just hear the fucking and it's like all you can hear for a while. It's like, we get it, dude. You lost the war. Like, how are you so proud of fucking losing a war? Like,
they
only
do.
Americans would lose a war and have a fucking parade about it.
They did those motorcycles. Me and the kid, and me and my wife and kid were walking down the street the other day, and the main street of High Street, the main road that comes through Columbus, we were walking down the street, just people watching and getting ice cream and shit. And there was traffic because it's the main road in the city, and there were two guys on those fucking hogs next to us the whole way, sitting in traffic. And I was like, these should be illegal. Just make them illegal. I hate these things because they're annoying to me. Like,
Yeah.
But he went to this Rolling Thunder thing, right? It was a surprise for him. It was supposed to be like, hey, Dad. It was one of his daughters, not my wife, but one of their other daughters. Hey, Dad, we're going to this like big thing for veterans, and we're gonna go see the wall. There's like a reception, and we're gonna do all this bullshit veteran stuff. And he was pissed because he couldn't take his gun with him. Like that, he was like, "Oh, fucking, I gotta go to Washington D.C. Yeah, sure, it's gonna be fun, but they won't let me take my gun with me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, dude, what do you need your gun for?" You know?
Yeah.
I argued with him because I had just gotten back from my second maybe time in New York, and was just like, I had said something to him about going to that I had been in Brooklyn. I think he said like, where were his wife really wants to go to New York, right?
Yeah.
And me and the wife, and I took my wife and kid with me the second time we went. And we were kind of, they were talking about, oh, it was so fun. We spent most of the time in Brooklyn. We have friends that live there, and we know a lot of people there, and there's so much cool stuff there. It's very, very cool part of the city. And he was like, you're not getting me there unless I got a gun, because there's no way I'm going to a place like that without a gun. I can't believe you would take your family there. And I'm like, what do you think is going on?
That's some real dark shit.
I mean, what they think I think the thing that gets to me is that like a dude like you or me, even me, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. I'm never afraid in Brooklyn, and I'm never afraid in DC. In the parts of DC that he was spending his time, is there any reason to be afraid?
No, obviously not. I mean, like, there are rough parts of town that I think, like whatever, but no, absolutely not. He was going to like, the fucking National Mall.
Yeah, yeah, and they just want to have their gun everywhere. I mean, and that's the thing they always think about with Chicago. It's like all these fucking, all these shootings, because you're not allowed to have a gun, and it's like, well, there's shootings happening, so people obviously have fucking guns there.
People obviously have guns. I mean, it's also like, it's also not like Illinois is just allowed to like fucking stop all the guns flowing in from Indiana. That it's like right near Chicago.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean,
You
it's
know, I
not.
mean, like, but dude, that aside, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it, I guess it's like I feel like the only case, and this is maybe changing gears a little bit, but um, like the only reason I think of when people say like leftists should buy guns, the only thing, like the only downside to that I see is like, well, more guns generally just means more people getting hurt, like self-harming too and shit like that. And it's just weird that I don't know. It's just I don't
Yeah,
fucking know.
yeah. Well, I'm with you. I don't. I have like a really conflicted view about guns because the people who say more leftist needs guns, I guess it's probably right. You know what I like in that
Yeah,
the bad guys have guns.
yeah.
I guess
I
is the
feel I feel like a better version of that argument is like, well, I guess leftists should also like be joining the United States Air Force because like, at the end of the day, you can get all the AK-47s you want, but if the government has like F-22s and shit and is dropping like laser guided bombs on you, well, maybe we need to get some leftists flying those planes too.
right. Well, hey, how I have a solution for
But
this,
obviously,
Sam.
wait. Before I get canceled, I just want to say that's
Cool.
obviously a terrible idea because you would be sent to bomb poor countries, like, and it would not be worth it to just wait for an offhand chance that we're in some sort of like Spanish Civil War type situation. So do not join the U.S. Air Force. You will go and bomb a lot of kids, and it's not worth it. It's bad.
I actually have the real idea. The this is the idea right here.
Yeah.
Leftists should steal the guns from the conservatives. That means we have them all and they don't have any. And boom, you got yourself like a nice little situation. But gun control is a really weird thing to me because like my way of thinking about it, I think, is very childish in that like I just want a world where like we don't need them,
Yeah.
where people don't need them. But I don't know if that's a realistic world that can actually exist,
I mean, it always the idea that like I mean, there's some like libertarians who are like, oh, good luck banning guns, but I mean, like, you need complicated industrial processes to put them together. It's not like marijuana, which will cannabis, whatever, which will just grow in the right place, grow anywhere really. If you, if you just fucking plant it. I mean, I guess there are people who say you can 3D print guns now, but I feel like at this point, like, good luck trying to kill someone with a 3D printed gun. I feel like that shit's just gonna go off in your own face.
Yeah. And you gotta have I mean, you're right. You need an entire factory to make a gun. So if
Yeah.
it is actually, you're exactly right about that. So before we finish up here, because it is late, I made Sam stay up because for some reason I look at Sam Knight as the biggest party animal ever, but he's a go to bed early guy. So just
I
letting the
mean,
listeners know that.
yeah, I mean, I will, when I'm on the road, I do like to, indulge a bit, but I'm getting up there in years, so I'm going to bed earlier these days.
I gotta tell you, I know, you're bringing your girlfriend with you and everything, but been a major dream of mine to have you and Brett on the road together because you and Brett are probably perfect road buddies. Better, but me and Sam Sachs are probably perfect road buddies, and you and Brett are perfect road buddies because I am very much like I go to one bar, I hang out after the show. I might go to the next bar, hang out for a couple hours, but I want to be in the hotel or at the place and relaxing and decompressing like by 1 a.m. probably maybe 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm like as into uppers as Brett, but like I'm definitely like, and Sam has been like sort of rolling his eyes because I've been talking about this so much, but I really feel like I want to do mushrooms from like when we're driving from North Carolina to Florida, because like I think that's like the longest leg of our trip, and I can be like on hallucinogens in the like for the van ride, and it'll be fun. And so basically, if you're coming to the show in North Carolina, bring mushrooms.
Oh, don't worry about it. Hey, I would not worry about you'll have mushrooms. I can I will
Is
make
anyone
the
gonna do them with me in the van? Do you think, or am I going on this mystical journey solo?
I am probably driving, but Brett Payne will do drugs at any time of any day. I'm fairly certain that there is not a time if you were doing drugs, Brett's doing drugs. That's just the way that dude is. He's fun. You just got to pick an off day because he won't do them on a show day,
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, because that's another perfect thing about that day is we're not performing that night. So, like I wouldn't be like off my face on stage, like babbling and,
Which
like
would also have its charms.
maybe it's a good way to go viral, actually.
Well, hey,
Guy on mushrooms pisses himself on stage, shits self, etc.
Matt Christman did go viral when he fell asleep on stage on that show with me and Brett. So that is possible.
Yeah.
God, what a weird situation that would be to be tripping on stage. So before we go, I want to I couldn't do it, but I will make sure. I mean, here's the thing about mushrooms is that we did have a bunch of them, but I had Brett make me tea with them, and they were old and they didn't work that well. They somewhat worked, but I do know for a fact that we have acid. If you're interested in LSD, we have a ton of that.
Well,
I think we only have like 20 hits of acid. Just people always, when we did the West Coast tour, people were just like, "Hey, I brought you some acid." Like so many different people brought us acid. It's like
I had a friend who lived in San Francisco, and he said like they would just like dose each other for fun, like as pranks. They'd be out at like bars and be like, "Oh, bro, I just put acid in your beer." It's like, oh man, like
it's crazy out there. There was a lot of hallucinogens out there. You know what? It's a great place to perform though, because people aren't all drunk after the show and hanging all over you and screaming in your face. Like in a lot of places, people get so drunk and they hang all over you and they're screaming at you and they're throwing up and they're passing out and shit out in front of the place. But on the West Coast, it's usually like it was so chill. Everybody was just kind of getting high or tripping or doing something weird. I think the wildest thing, one of the craziest acid things was those LSD teens. They call in sometimes on the call-in show. They drove here from Champaign, Illinois on acid and watched us perform in Columbus on acid and then drove home. And
Damn.
It's real warriors. I gotta say, those are some real psycho, not warriors.
It's just some spiritual warriors.
I know. I can't imagine it, but we'll make sure it's fun. But here's the thing: Will one time asked Brett after a Chapo street fight show, why does everybody give you guys drugs and not us any? And I'm like, because like we always talk about drugs on our show. Brett does drugs, and we make sure to mention drugs all the time. And if you say like I like doing, I fucking right now in my kitchen, I have 2 little containers of Molly that like just are sitting there. I don't even know what to fucking do with them. I love that stuff though. I just tried it for the first time, and it's wonderful.
I'm afraid of I might like it too much, but
it is so good, Sam. I did it at a festival this year that we were just kind of hanging out at, and Brett like had it with him, and he gave some to my wife, and my wife did it, and then I got jealous because my wife did it. You know what I mean? When like,
yeah.
You know, it's like when you see somebody, your wife or your girlfriend is like, oh, my wife is like, oh, I'll do the Molly. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'll do the Molly too, motherfucker. You know?
Yeah.
So here's the tour for you. The Washington, D.C. show at the Big Hunt. We got 2 shows, and it is July 28th, and they're going to sell out. I'm nearly positive both of them are going to sell out. And the Sams have an incredible guest that I think we're surprising people, or do you want to announce it? You're allowed to do whatever you want.
I mean, I hadn't talked about it with Sam, but I don't know. Maybe we should keep it a surprise.
Keep it a surprise. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Another show is and it is July.
Bring mushrooms.
Bring mushrooms, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, at the Nightlight on Tuesday, July 30th. That's another one. Brett wants me to let everybody know the tickets are sort of, they're going pretty fast. I would probably buy them as early as possible. Jacksonville, Florida, Rain Dogs. Doors open at 8, show at 9, and that is August 1st. And then Atlanta, Georgia, at the Drunk Unicorn, Saturday night, August 3rd. I think there's a special guest on that show, but I can't say who it is.
Yeah, that's the Trillbillies, their guest too, right?
I think the Trillbillies guest is at the bakery on August 4th in Atlanta. We're doing 2 in Atlanta. I think the other guest in it, the Trillbillies have a guest in Atlanta, and me and Brett have somebody from the Goth Caucus of the DSA coming up on stage. She's very cool and very goth. And then in Nashville, Tennessee, at Dark Matter, the tickets are on sale. It's Monday, August 5th. And on top of just the badassness of it, the Trillbillies and District Sentinel Radio being there, and at our first big tour together, the Street Fight set will be a combo show. It will be a collaboration that has never happened before. And I'm not going to announce who this is with, but it is Street Fight and another show that is currently, I'm censoring the name, but it's worth it, and you'll love it, and it'll be very fun. And those are the tour dates.
It's going to whip, dude.
I'm excited.
It's going to be so much fucking fun. The only, like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm getting into something here that I shouldn't get into because we're trying to wrap up here, but I don't know. I also kind of wish we were going to New Jersey. I feel like New Jersey is a very street fight state, and you could like sell out. Like we could, I don't know, go all up and down New Jersey. New Jersey is the Ohio of the Mid-Atlantic.
I do feel guilty that we've done Philly and New York and not Jersey. And I do know that I'm like looking into next May, going back up Northeast and doing that tour again. So
that would be, I mean, like a great thing to do would be to perform in Jersey City as like your New York stop. Be like, you know what? I'm not even coming to New York. You got to come to Jersey City. And Like I think that would really separate like the wheat from the chaff, and like
Yeah, I got to.
the real good street fight fans would come out to Jersey, also probably to gamble and to the show.
I need the
Get
chaff to
on the
show
pack
up
train.
to pay for the hotel room and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But no, but I agree with. I want to do some shit in Jersey for real, and there's a lot of cities I still want to do stuff in. I think early next year. I mean, like January, February, and probably not March. I think we're gonna do one-off types of things.
Yeah.
And like go to one place and come home. I don't think we're gonna do any super touring until we're doing Florida in April.
Oh hell yeah.
And then that rounds us all out. So and next year is the conventions and
Yeah,
stuff.
I was
So
gonna say I would love to do the hit the convention circuit this year.
yeah, we'll be there. We will definitely be getting a hold of you guys to do this stuff again. I want to do more stuff with you guys. I mean, to be honest, I'm so excited because it feels like I'm going on the road like a rock band now.
Hell
Like,
yeah, dude.
it's like 10 people in a van traveling the country doing their show, and I can't fucking believe it's happening. Like I just think. Brett brought this up when Sam Sachs was on the phone because Brett doesn't remember anything, but I do remember sitting with you and Dank Metal, as we call him, Dan.
Yeah.
I just remember sitting there doing that podcast while you were house sitting and
for
like
my folks, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like we were just kind of all just hanging out, not and like it wasn't really much. We didn't have a ton of listeners, and it was just something we were doing for fun. And now we're all going out on tour together, and I'm so glad it happened with you guys. Thank you for coming on and doing this show with me. And tell them where to find you, Sam.
Go to well, you can search the iTunes the podcast app on the iPhone for District Sentinel Radio. You can subscribe on our SoundCloud, or if you got a few bucks, patreon.com/District Sentinel, and check it out. It's good.
Yeah,
we do like I mean, we do serious news. We try to make it a little bit fun and also joke about how awful things are, and it's kind of like I don't know if like NPR were more like good and left. I think is like, I hate to say it like that because like NPR is like nails on a chalkboard now.
I keep I the Shock Jock show I'm doing, the NPR's the model. Like I'm sort of doing it as an NPR, but instead of using like jazz music and shit like that, I'm using heavy metal guitar riffs and shit.
Nice.
So like it's basically like NPR mixed with Street Fight mixed with kind of what a Shock Jock radio thing would sound like, but it's more of a retrospective. It's a very fucking weird concept, but I am using the NPR model finally.
Oh man, I can't believe I forgot to like your Shock Jock thing has made me think about, and again, I'm tail end of this. I shouldn't bring this up.
You don't have to worry about time talk as long as I don't have anything I got going on. So
no, true.
It's good. But
I was just thinking about I was thinking about how like I used to listen to like sports talk radio when I was a kid, and like obviously the Shock Jocks were totally different, but there is I don't know what it was, but I don't know what I'm saying here either. But basically, long story short, I remember after 9/11, I stopped listening to the sports talk radio because like one night, like one of the DJs was just like, just go out there and enlist in the military right now. And I was just like, I hate this, dude. I fucking hate this. And so I like, sports talk 980 or whatever. I was like, I don't need to listen to these guys like yell about like, the Capitals. I can just look up the stats myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a real thread because I think a lot of the sports guys were inspired by the shock guys, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like I
Probably.
I do think,
I mean, Imus was a sports guy, right? Wasn't he?
yeah, I
He
can't
was
think
kind
of. I'm trying to Pharrell. I think Scott Pharrell is who I think would be the sports shock jock. You've probably never heard of him. He was a real chud, and he talked real fast. But I do think, because the reason I'm doing this shock jock show is because of how they've sort of influenced podcasting, and like they were the influences more than a lot of classic radio for this stuff that exists. And I'm not even just talking about my show. I'm talking about, like, you know, the LA comedy podcast, the New York, like all the podcasts owe something to that, because like most of us got into talk radio in some way, whether it's sports or shock jocks, and like none of us would be doing radio if it weren't. I don't think any of us would be doing radio if there weren't these like kind of magnetic people who were doing this thing that seemed like a free-flowing conversation that would make you laugh and make you angry at times, and they all kind of did. They all did that, and I think sports guys do. And I also think that the history of the shock jock is so crazy to me, because they were some of the biggest stars in the world for a period of time, and I don't think anybody realizes that.
Yeah.
I'm doing a shock jock retrospective in October, and I'm doing a Woodstock 99 retrospective next month. So,
oh god,
I'm like an insane person right now. Well, Sam, thanks for doing this, and I can't wait to I can't wait to see you on I think Friday, right, or Saturday.
Saturday.
I'm leaving here Friday, and then I'll be there Saturday, and I will see you then.
Yeah, good luck driving that thing through like Eastern Kentucky and shit. Like some of those mountain roads are,
I'm great. I'm a great driver, Sam. You will see. It'll be fun.
Right on. Well,